The sky above the planet Voron 5 was a violent swirl of reds and grays. Smoke rose from shattered towers, and the once lush fields were scorched black. Alien war machines, broken and lifeless, littered the battlefield. The sound of metal tearing, engines exploding, and faint cries of the dying filled the air. At the center of the destruction stood the alien queen, a figure both terrifying and majestic. Her scales shimmered with dark energy. Her wings drooped from exhaustion, and her eyes, normally filled with fiery command, now reflected something she had never felt before: defeat. She had fought countless wars, conquered dozens of worlds, and bent entire species to her will. Yet here she was, kneeling amidst the ruins of her empire, her massive crown bent and scorched. For the first time in her long life, the alien queen felt powerless. Her army had been shattered by a force she had underestimated: a small human fleet that had arrived from a distant star system. The humans were smaller, physically weaker, but they were clever. They had struck where the queen's defenses were weakest, using tactics she had never imagined. Swarms of small fighter ships darted between her war machines, targeting engines and control units. Bombs fell from above, not just to destroy, but to confuse, to force her soldiers into chaos. The alien queen had never faced an enemy like this, and now she wondered if her reign would end here. On this scorched battlefield, your forces are broken, Queen Vera, said a human voice, calm yet commanding. The queen turned sharply. A human commander had landed on the planet, stepping lightly over the shattered ground. She expected the usual fear, the trembling of subjects, the desperate pleas for mercy. But instead, she saw calm eyes and steady hands. The queen's voice, deep and resonant, trembled slightly. Why do you not attack me directly? My power is unmatched. Why do you speak, human? Are you afraid I will destroy you? The human shook his head. No, your majesty. We are not here to destroy. We are here to stop the war, to save lives. We do not wish to conquer you. We only want peace. The queen blinked. Peace? She had never understood this concept. In her world, power was earned through strength and fear. To ask for peace from someone she had defeated, or so she thought, was unusual. It made her hesitate. Her wings folded slightly. Her soldiers, few and scattered, looked to her for guidance. She had always been decisive, always commanding. But now, her mind was unsure. Could she trust these humans? Could a species so small and fragile, yet so confident, truly offer her something valuable? The human commander stepped closer, carefully avoiding the broken debris around him. Queen Vera, I know your people have suffered greatly. You have lost many soldiers. But surrendering does not mean giving up. It means choosing a future where your people can live and where your power can still matter, without endless bloodshed. The alien queen's heart tore. Whatever organ controlled her thoughts bounded. She had never heard anyone speak to her this way. Her enemies had always tried to kill her or flee from her. No one had ever offered wisdom instead of violence. I am not used to this, she admitted, her voice a low rumble. I am the queen of my world. I am meant to conquer, to rule, to command. What reason do I have to trust your words? The human smiled, gently. Because you are a leader who understands more than just strength. You have led your people through centuries of war. You know the cost of endless fighting. We have seen your courage. We respect it. But there is a better way. The queen paused. Her mind raced through memories of countless battles. She had watched entire cities fall, millions of lives lost, worlds changed forever. She had thought she was unstoppable, unchallenged. And yet, here was a species that had faced her with courage and cleverness. A species that had survived against impossible odds. Slowly, the queen rose to her full height, towering above the human, her wings spreading slightly as she tested her strength. Tell me, she said, voice still carrying authority, how is it possible that your kind, so small and weak, could defeat my armies? How could you strike where I was strongest? The human commander's eyes glinted with calm intelligence. Because we do not rely only on strength. We rely on thinking, on cooperation, on creativity. We see opportunities where others see danger. You may have armies that are vast and powerful, but they are predictable. We adapt, we learn. We find the path others ignore. The queen studied him. The truth of his words could not be denied. Her scouts had reported no super weapons, no overwhelming force. It was human intelligence and adaptability that had won the day. She had underestimated them. She had thought that size and power were the only measures of strength. She was wrong, for the first time in her life. The alien queen felt a strange sensation, a mixture of curiosity, awe, and respect. She looked around at her broken soldiers, the burning battlefield, and then back at the human commander. "You are not like the others I have faced," she admitted. "I see that now. Perhaps my strength is not enough." The human nodded. "You are right. Strength alone is not enough. But together, we can find solutions that save lives and build something greater. Your people are still here. Your leadership is still important. This battle does not have to be the end of your world." The queen's mind struggled to process this. She had always believed in victory through fear and power. Yet, she had just experienced defeat at the hands of someone she might have considered weak. And yet, they had treated her with respect, even as enemies. The concept was unfamiliar, but compelling. A soft breeze blew across the battlefield, carrying the scent of burning metal and scorched earth. The queen lowered her wings slightly and studied the human more closely. His face was calm, but his eyes shone with determination. He did not gloat. He did not mock. He simply offered a choice surrender without shame and perhaps find a new path forward. The alien queen took a step back, her mind heavy with thought. For centuries, she had ruled through fear. She had expected submission, obedience, or death. And yet, here was a human showing her another way, a way that did not require surrender and shame, but in wisdom and courage. Her heart toward whatever guided her reasoning trembled. Could she really yield? Could she truly trust these humans? And yet, as she looked around at the devastation, she realized something. If she continued to fight, her people would be destroyed entirely. She had no choice but to listen. The human commander stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. "Queen Vera, your strength is still needed. Your mind, your vision, your leadership. The galaxy is full of challenges. Together, we can face them. Alone, your people risk extinction. You have a choice, one that requires courage, the same courage you have always shown." The queen's eyes softened. She had been ready to yield entirely, to accept defeat and surrender her life to history. But this voice, this calm, intelligent human voice, made her pause. It made her think, for the first time, that there was more to power than destruction. She looked out at the battlefield, at the broken machines, at the smoke rising from the ground. And then, slowly, she nodded. Not in submission, not in fear, but in thought, in consideration. She had heard the human's voice. She had felt the weight of its wisdom, and something inside her changed for the first time. The alien queen allowed herself to imagine a future where humans were not enemies, where strength was measured not just in firepower, but in courage, intelligence, and understanding. The battle was lost, but perhaps a greater victory was just beginning. The human commander smiled. Sensing the shift, he did not speak, but his presence was a reminder that even in defeat, there was hope. And the alien queen, once ready to yield entirely, now realized that surrender could take many forms, not all of them weak, and some of them stronger than anything she had known before. As the sun set over the shattered planet, the queen lifted her head high, her mind alive with new possibilities. Somewhere in the distance, the remaining humans began to regroup, ready to face whatever challenges came next. And the alien queen, for the first time in centuries, wondered not how to conquer but how to understand and grow, guided by the unexpected wisdom of a human voice. The alien queen, Vera, stood atop the charred remains of her palace, overlooking the battlefield that had once been the pride of her empire. Smoke and dust rose from the scorched ground, curling into the twilight sky. Her soldiers were scattered, weary, and many were tending to the wounded. For the first time in her long life, she felt uncertainty, a strange companion that she could neither fight nor command. She had expected humiliation, perhaps even death, yet the humans, small and fragile, had offered something unexpected, a voice. A voice that did not demand surrender. A voice that did not mock her defeat. A voice that confused her. Vera remembered the moment vividly. The human commander had approached her with steady eyes and calm words. He had spoken of peace, not as a plea, but as an idea, as a strategy, as a way to save lives. She had expected threats, demands, even trickery, but instead, she found understanding. The concept of being heard and respected by a so-called weak species was alien to her. Her mind refused to rest. She paced slowly across the ruins, her enormous claws crunching against broken metal. Why do they act this way? She wondered. Why do they speak of peace instead of power? Why do they fight not to dominate, but to protect? The young human officer, the one who had spoken to her so gently, approached with cautious steps. Unlike the commander, who seemed confident and imposing in his calm, the officer appeared nervous yet determined. His small frame contrasted sharply with her massive wingspan, yet his presence carried a strange weight, as if every word he spoke mattered. "Your Majesty," the officer said, bowing slightly, "I know this is difficult. You have never faced an enemy who fights like this. We understand your pain, and we want to help you find a way forward. You have survived countless battles, and your wisdom is still unmatched. Please, listen to me." Vera regarded him with suspicion, her eyes narrowing. She had heard many words before, from many foes, but they had always ended with violence. Still, something in his tone made her pause. Not all strength is physical, she realized. Perhaps the humans possess a strength I have yet to understand. "Speak," she commanded. Her voice, though low and reverberating, carried no anger, only cautious curiosity. The officer took a deep breath. Humans do not seek to destroy every opponent. We fight when necessary, but we value life and cooperation. We believe that victory without understanding is meaningless. If you continue this war alone, many will die. But if we work together, your people can survive and perhaps thrive in ways you never imagined. Vera tilted her head, her mind racing. She had never thought of victory in terms other than dominance. To survive, yes, she had known strategies of retreat and regrouping. But to thrive through cooperation? That was a concept foreign to her kind. Yet the humans had proven themselves clever, unpredictable, and powerful in ways she had never encountered. She remembered the battle in vivid detail, the human ships darting like swarms of small predators, targeting weak points she hadn't noticed, using the terrain and environment to their advantage. They were not the strongest, yet they had won. And now, their words offered her something more than survival, they offered possibility. Vera folded her wings, lowering herself closer to the officer. "You speak of understanding," she said slowly. "But how can I trust you? You have defeated my armies. You have proven your skill and cleverness. But can you truly offer a path that benefits my people?" The officer nodded solemnly. "Yes, Your Majesty. Our people have faced wars, starvation, and disasters. We have learned that survival alone is not enough. Leadership requires vision, courage, and the willingness to listen. You possess all of these, and your strength does not have to be wasted in endless war. Let us show you another way." Vera studied him, searching for deception, for trickery, for even the smallest hint of betrayal. She found none, only sincerity, determination, and a strange kind of courage that was not born of firepower, but of conviction and reason. She spoke again, her voice almost a whisper. "Why do you care? My people and I are enemies of your species. Why do you not celebrate our defeat instead of speaking to me with respect?" The officer's gaze was steady, because respect is not earned by victory alone. It is earned by understanding, by courage, by integrity. "We have seen your strength, Queen Vera, but we also see your potential to guide your people beyond war. That is why I speak to you not as a conqueror, but as a fellow leader, someone who wishes to see you succeed in ways that matter." Vera's mind felt heavy with new thoughts. She had spent centuries learning strategies of domination, tactics of fear, and methods of survival in war. She had faced countless enemies, some clever, some strong, some ruthless. Yet never had anyone faced her with patience, understanding, or the offer of partnership instead of subjugation. For the first time, she realized that the humans were not like other species. They were small, yes, but adaptable, weak in appearance, yet clever beyond measure, fragile, yet unyielding in spirit, and most importantly, they spoke with truth and hope rather than fear or malice. The alien queen's wings twitched nervously. She had always relied on instinct and strength. Now, she felt a different kind of challenge, the challenge of trust. Could she truly believe these humans? Could she take their words seriously enough to consider surrendering not to defeat, but to possibility? You speak of cooperation, she said finally, her deep voice carrying over the wind-blown ruins. Tell me, human, how can we work together when we are enemies? How can your kind see beyond the battlefield, beyond the fires and the destruction, and consider friendship with those you have defeated? The officer smiled faintly. Friendship is built slowly, Your Majesty, and trust even more so. But the first step is communication. We listen, we learn, and we offer guidance. You have led your people for centuries. Your decisions matter. Together, we can rebuild what was lost, protect what remains, and find a path that avoids further bloodshed. But only if you are willing to listen. Vera felt a strange warmth in her chest, a sensation unfamiliar to her kind. It was not fear, nor anger, nor excitement. It was curiosity, pure and simple. She had spent eons conquering, ruling, and enforcing her will. Yet here, standing amidst the ruins of her empire, she found herself intrigued by the humans, by their cleverness, and by their ability to see a future beyond war. For ours, the Queen and the officer spoke. She asked questions, testing his knowledge, his honesty, his understanding of her people. He answered with patience, never faltering, never hesitating. With each answer, Vera felt a growing sense of respect for the species she had once dismissed as weak. By the time the twin moons of Vorn 5 rose high in the sky, casting silver light over the battlefield, the alien queen had made a decision. She would not surrender blindly. She would not bow to fear, but she would listen. She would consider the humans' words and weigh them carefully. The officer, sensing her thoughts, spoke softly. You have strength, wisdom, and leadership, Queen Vera. Do not let this defeat define you. Let it teach you. Let it guide you. There is more to victory than winning battles. There is more to power than fear. Your choices now can shape the future of your people for generations. The Queen's eyes softened, reflecting the silver light of the moons. She realized that her understanding of strength had changed forever. Humans had shown her a truth she had never known. That power was not measured by the size of one's army, nor the firepower one possessed, but by courage, intellect, and the willingness to change. For the first time, Vera felt hope not just for herself, but for her people. And though the battlefield was still filled with smoke and broken machines, though her soldiers were scattered and wounded, the Queen knew that a new path had begun, one that would require trust, careful thought, and perhaps even alliance with those she had once called enemies. The human officer bowed once more, sensing that his words had made an impact. Rest now, Your Majesty. Tomorrow, we begin a new conversation, one that can shape the future of both our peoples. The Queen watched him leave, her mind alive with possibilities. She knew that tomorrow would bring challenges, questions, and perhaps even doubts. But tonight, she had learned something that no victory or defeat could ever teach, that the voice of understanding could change even the fiercest heart, and that the human species, so small, so fragile, yet so remarkable, had given her something far greater than triumph, hope. As the wind swept across the battlefield, carrying the scent of smoke and burnt earth, the alien queen whispered to herself, almost as if speaking to the moons above, perhaps I have underestimated them, perhaps. There's more to this universe than power alone, and for the first time in centuries, Queen Vera allowed herself to listen not just with her ears, but with her mind and her heart. The alien queen, Vera, returned to the remnants of her command center, a towering structure now scarred by the human assault. The air still carried the metallic scent of burned machines. But the quiet that had settled over the battlefield was different from before. It was not the silence of death, but the silence of reflection. Her soldiers were repairing what they could, patching wounds both physical and emotional. Many looked to her for guidance, still unsure of the humans' intentions. Vera knew they needed hope as much as she did. She had survived countless battles, but surviving the vitriol, total defeat, was something new. And now, she had to lead with thought, not only strength. The human commander approached, accompanied by the young officer who had first spoken to her with gentle wisdom. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly, "I hope the night has given you time to consider our words. Today, we can begin understanding each other better." Vera studied him. Her wings twitched slightly. "I have considered," she said, her voice low and deliberate. "But consideration alone does not build trust. I need proof. I need to know that your words are not lies, that your intentions are not selfish." The human nodded calmly. "I understand. And you shall have proof, Queen Vera. But proof is not only in actions, it is in conversation, in questions, in understanding. You must speak, and we will answer honestly." Vera's eyes narrowed. She had been a queen for centuries, a ruler whose power had rarely been questioned. And yet, now she found herself in new territory, not commanding, but listening, not dictating, but questioning. She motioned with one claw, and the humans followed her into the ruined command center, where screens flickered weakly and panels were scorched. "Tell me," she began, "why do your species fight with such determination, even against enemies much stronger than you? You are small, fragile, your lives are brief, and yet you risk everything. Why?" The officer stepped forward, hands clasped calmly. "Because courage is not measured by size or strength, Your Majesty. Courage is measured by the willingness to act when the outcome is uncertain. We value life, but we also value action. And we fight not for conquest, but for protection. That is why we survive, even when others might not expect it." Vera considered his words. Her species had always believed that fear was the ultimate tool. Strength was measured by intimidation, by overwhelming power. Yet these humans survived because they did not rely solely on fear. They survived because of thinking, cooperation, and determination. "Cooperation?" she asked. "You speak of your people working together, but I have conquered entire civilizations. They could not survive against me. Why is it different for your species?" The commander answered without hesitation. "Because we adapt. We learn, we change. Where others are rigid, we are flexible. Where others see only strength, we see opportunity. Your armies are strong, but predictable. Our strength lies in creativity, in strategy, in using every advantage wisely." Vera's wings twitched nervously. She had faced many opponents, but none had so clearly articulated the reason for their survival. She had relied on instinct and power, but the humans had shown her another path, thinking over brute force. "I will test you," she said, her voice carrying authority again. "Answer honestly or leave this place. I need to know that your words are not empty. My people are counting on me to discern truth from deception." The officer nodded. "We welcome your questions, Queen Vera. Truth is the only foundation for trust." She paced across the shattered floor, her claws clicking against scorched metal. "Tell me about your leaders. Do they command by fear, as I do, or do they inspire loyalty through other means?" The commander exchanged a glance with the officer. "Humans lead in many ways, Your Majesty. Some lead by example, some by inspiring trust, some by strategy. Rarely do we rely solely on fear. Even in battle, we respect the lives of those who fight, because respect earns cooperation far better than intimidation. This is why our people can achieve great things, even against stronger opponents." Vera considered this. Her mind, trained for centuries to value power above all else, felt a strange mixture of admiration and disbelief. Could it be true that strength did not require fear? Could it be possible to lead without domination? "You speak of respect," she said softly. "Yet my people, my soldiers, they fear me. They obey because they must, not because they trust me. Can respect truly command loyalty?" The officer stepped closer. Respect is earned, Your Majesty, but once it is given, it is far stronger than fear. Fear may compel obedience, but respect inspires dedication, creativity, and unity. Your people would follow you not because they must, but because they believe in your leadership. That is power that cannot be broken by conquest alone. Vera's wings unfolded slowly, almost as if the idea itself carried weight. She had never thought of leadership this way. She had never imagined that trust could be more powerful than fear. That guidance could surpass domination. Show me, she said, her voice steady now. Show me how this works. I want to see your strength, not in battle, but in unity, in thought, in cooperation. The human commander nodded. Then we will begin a demonstration. Not a battle, not a conquest, but a test of strategy. We will show you how humans solve impossible problems together. They led her to a nearby control room, partially damaged but functional. Holographic screens flickered to life, displaying data from the surrounding planet and from distant star systems. The humans explained a situation in which multiple worlds faced a threat from environmental collapse. Alone, no species could save them. But together, with cooperation, creativity, and strategy, survival was possible. Vera listened intently, asking questions and challenging assumptions. Each answer from the humans revealed ingenuity she had never imagined. They spoke of resource sharing, emergency response, and problem solving in real time. They emphasized that courage was not just fighting, it was thinking, planning, and acting with precision. The alien queen's mind raced. She had always believed that battles were won by force, that wars were decided by the strongest army. But now, she saw a different kind of strength, one that relied on mind over muscle, on collaboration over domination, on hope over fear. Hours passed as they worked together on the hypothetical scenario. Vera tested the humans, proposing impossible conditions and seeing how they adapted. Each time, they responded with clever solutions, calm reasoning, and unity. Slowly, the queen felt her old assumptions breaking apart. She had underestimated them, and now she saw the depth of their potential. Finally, she leaned back in her throne, exhausted but fascinated. I admit, your kind is unlike any I have faced, she said. You are clever, adaptable, and persistent. But persistence alone does not earn trust. How can I know that your intentions are not self-serving? The officer smiled gently. You cannot know immediately. Trust must be built through action and consistency. But the first step is understanding. We are willing to demonstrate that our words are true, not with threats or power, but with our actions and decisions. That is the way humans build trust, and perhaps you can too. Vera folded her wings around her massive body, feeling something she had never allowed herself to feel fully, curiosity without suspicion. She wanted to know more, to test the humans further, to see the depth of their minds and the strength of their convictions. You will remain here, she commanded softly. Tomorrow, we continue. I will observe you, question you, and perhaps learn from you. The humans bowed, understanding the weight of her words. They were not being given submission, nor had they demanded it. They had been invited into dialogue, a rare gift for a species that had once dominated them through fear. As night fell over the battlefield, Vera walked among her soldiers, observing their weary faces. She could see the confusion in their eyes. They had survived the humans' attack. Yet now their queen was questioning everything they had known about power, strength, and leadership. For centuries, fear had held them together. Now, curiosity and respect might hold them even stronger. The alien queen looked to the stars, thinking about the humans who had changed her perspective and mirrors. She realized that she had underestimated them not only in battle, but in spirit, courage, and intellect. And for the first time, she felt the stirring of something new, hope for cooperation, for alliance, and for a future beyond conquest. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. She would test the humans further, challenge their ideas, and perhaps even allow herself to trust them in ways she had never trusted any species. But tonight, she allowed herself a small, rare moment of peace. She had heard a voice that confused her, challenged her, and inspired her. And that voice had planted a seed that might grow into understanding, respect, and a new kind of power. Vera knew the path ahead would not be easy. Trust was fragile. Misunderstanding could destroy everything. But the humans had shown her that strength came in many forms. And perhaps the greatest strength of all was the courage to listen, question, and change. And with that thought, the alien queen closed her eyes under the twin moons of Voron 5, feeling the weight of defeat lift slightly, replaced by the light of possibility. The morning sun rose over Voron 5, casting long shadows across the scarred battlefield. Smoke still drifted from broken war machines, and the scent of scorched metal lingered in the air. The alien queen, Vera, stood at the edge of the battlefield. Her wings stretched wide as she observed her recovering forces. For the first time in centuries, she had felt a flicker of hope, a possibility that defeat did not mean the end. The humans had remained near the ruins of their landing site, quietly coordinating repairs to their ships and equipment. Their calm, intelligent presence reminded Vera that they were more than mere survivors. They were thinkers, planners, and adaptable allies. She had spent hours observing them, learning their ways, testing their knowledge, and beginning to understand their strength beyond brute force. But the peace of that morning was shattered. A new threat approached from the depths of space, the Orcs Dominion, a ruthless alien faction that had long competed with Vera's empire, saw her weakened forces and the human presence as an opportunity. Their warships, massive and menacing, appeared on the horizon, engines blazing like molten fire. Their numbers were overwhelming, far larger than the forces Vera had just lost. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Her soldiers tensed, ready to fight, yet some faltered under the sight of the enemy. She realized immediately that this was not a battle she could face alone. If the Orcs Dominion succeeded, her people would be enslaved, and the humans might be destroyed as well. Victory or defeat would now depend on alliance, strategy, and courage rather than sheer power. The human commander approached her swiftly. Queen Vera, the Orcs Dominion is attacking. Their fleet is massive, but we have a chance to defend this planet together. We must act quickly. Vera took a deep breath. Her claws clenched around the scorched metal of the palace railing. I will not let my people perish, but your strategy must be proven. Tell me, human, how do you propose we survive against this overwhelming force? The commander gestured toward a holographic display of the incoming fleet. We exploit their weaknesses. They rely on overwhelming numbers and predictable tactics. We can use the terrain, coordinate attacks, and create distractions. Your forces can hold choke points while we strike at critical targets. Together, we can turn their strength into their weakness. The Queen considered the plan carefully. It required her soldiers to trust the humans, and it required her to trust them in return. She realized that this was a test not just of strength, but of cooperation and understanding. For the first time, Vera allowed herself to follow another's guidance, not out of fear, but out of strategic insight. Prepare the defenses, she commanded, her voice strong and commanding. We hold the outer perimeter, and we follow the humans' lead. Fail, and our people die. Succeed, and we survive together. The humans and the Queen's forces worked quickly. Small teams of human engineers repaired alien turrets and combined technology in innovative ways. Vera's soldiers, initially wary, began to see the humans' tactics in action. They marveled at the coordination, the quick adaptation, and the clever use of resources. Slowly, their fear transformed into confidence not only in themselves, but in the humans who had challenged them to think differently. As the Orcs fleet entered the planet's atmosphere, the first wave of attacks began. Enormous warships fired energy blasts that shook the ground. Alien soldiers advanced, confident that Voron 5 would fall easily. But they did not anticipate the combined force of humans and Vera's troops working in synchrony. The Queen watched the battle unfold from a high vantage point. Her soldiers held strategic positions, forming barriers and traps that funneled the Orcs forces into predictable patterns. Human pilots darted through the chaos, targeting weak points in enemy ships with precision. Explosions lit the sky, yet the battlefield was controlled, each move calculated and purposeful. Vera's mind raced as she coordinated her forces with the humans. She gave orders with her usual authority, but also listened to the humans' suggestions, adapting strategies on the fly. For centuries, she had led by instinct and domination. Yet now she was learning the value of collaboration and dialogue. Hours passed, and the tide of battle began to shift. The Vorax Dominion, confident in their numbers, had not expected such coordination. Their forces faltered as humans and aliens worked seamlessly, combining speed, strength, and ingenuity. Vera herself engaged directly, her wings creating shields for her soldiers, her claws tearing through enemy machines with precision. But it was the teamwork, the unexpected unity of two species that gave them the advantage. At one point, the Queen saw a group of Vorax soldiers attempting to flank the human command post. Without hesitation, she led a squad of her best fighters to intercept, blocking the advance and buying time for the humans to counterattack. The officer who had first spoken to her now coordinated from the ground, guiding reinforcements with calm intelligence. Vera realized that they were no longer separate forces, they were one alliance, bound by necessity, trust, and shared purpose. Despite their efforts, the battle was far from easy. Vorax warships bombarded key positions, and the ground forces struggled under heavy fire. Vera saw soldiers fall, machines explode, and humans narrowly escape destruction. Yet, through it all, the calm, reasoned strategies of the humans held the line. They did not panic. They did not retreat. And slowly, her soldiers began to mirror that resolve. Vera's mind was a whirlwind of focus and determination. She had never felt such pressure, never felt the need to trust another species so completely. Yet, as the humans continued to execute their plans flawlessly, she felt respect and admiration growing. Their courage was not born of power, but of careful thought, adaptability, and unity. Finally, after hours of intense fighting, the Vorax Dominion began to retreat. Their ships, damaged and disorganized, fled back into space. The battlefield fell silent, except for the crackle of burning machinery and the tired breaths of the survivors. Vera looked over the battlefield and saw her soldiers, exhausted but alive. She saw humans, weary yet unharmed, who had risked everything to save lives. And for the first time, she felt a sense of genuine relief and gratitude. The human commander approached her once more. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly, "we held the line together. Your soldiers fought bravely, and our people acted with precision. Today, we showed that cooperation can overcome even the strongest enemy." Vera studied him carefully, her wings folding slowly. "Indeed," she said, her voice resonating with authority and awe. "Your tactics, your guidance, it saved my people. I underestimated your kind. I see now that strength is not measured solely by firepower or numbers, but by intelligence, courage, and unity." The officer stepped forward as well. "And you, Your Majesty, demonstrated leadership unlike any we have seen. You adapted, listened, and coordinated with a species once considered your enemy. That is courage of the highest order." The Queen's mind reflected on the battle. For centuries, she had ruled through fear and power. She had conquered, dominated, and relied on her armies to enforce her will. Yet, today she had learned something new, that trust, collaboration, and understanding could achieve results even greater than fear or force. Her soldiers, who had once feared defeat, now looked to her with renewed confidence. They had seen their queen fight not just with claws and wings, but with wisdom and judgment, and they understood that victory could come in more ways than one. Vera turned her gaze toward the horizon, where the retreating Vorax ships disappeared into the void. The battle had been won, but the Queen knew that the war was far from over. Other enemies might rise, other challenges might appear. Yet now, she had allies, humans who had proven their value not just in battle, but in thought, planning, and courage. For the first time, the alien Queen felt a sense of possibility. She had faced defeat, yet emerged stronger, not through domination, but through partnership and understanding. The battlefield, though scarred and destroyed, had become a place of learning, adaptation, and hope. As the sun set over Vorn 5, Casting golden light over the surviving soldiers and human allies, Vera made a silent vow. She would rebuild her empire not through fear, but through wisdom, cooperation, and courage. She would continue to learn from the humans, and perhaps, together, they could face the universe's challenges in ways she had never imagined. And so, as night fell and the stars blinked into existence above the planet, the alien queen looked upon the humans with respect, admiration, and cautious hope. She had learned that even the fiercest opponent could become an ally, and that sometimes the greatest victories were those that transcended the battlefield. The war was not over, but a new chapter had begun, one that promised courage, intelligence, and the possibility of a future built not on fear, but on trust and unity. The stars shimmered over Voron 5, casting silvery light across the repaired fortifications and quiet battlefields. The planet was still scarred, but life had begun to return. Alien soldiers moved carefully among the wreckage, tending to repairs, while humans assisted where they could, combining technology and knowledge in ways Vera had never imagined. Queen Vera stood atop a high plateau overlooking the activity below. Her wings were folded neatly behind her, her eyes sharp yet reflective. For centuries, she had ruled with power and fear. But now, after facing defeat, listening to humans, and surviving the Vorax Dominion's assault with their guidance, she realized something profound. Strength was more than domination, and leadership was more than command. The human commander approached, his steps measured but confident. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly, "the rebuilding efforts are underway. Your people and ours are working together. It is not just survival anymore, it is cooperation and innovation. This is what I promised you. This is the power of unity." Vera regarded him, her eyes reflecting the twin moons. "Indeed," she said, her deep voice resonating with calm authority. "I have witnessed it. My soldiers, who once feared me, now act with courage and purpose. They are not just following orders, they are thinking, creating, and contributing. Your presence, your guidance, it has changed much here." The officer who had first spoken to her joined them. "And your guidance, Queen Vera, has changed us as well. We have learned that true leadership is not just about strength, it is about listening, understanding, and trusting others. Today, humans and your people fought side by side. Tomorrow, we can face challenges together." Vera nodded thoughtfully. Her mind reflected on the events that had brought her to this point, the devastating human assault, the strange calm of their voices, the dialogue that had challenged centuries of belief, and finally, the joint battle against the Vorax Dominion. Each step had taught her something new. Each conversation had chipped away at the walls she had built around her thoughts. She realized that her empire had not just survived defeat. It had grown stronger through understanding. Fear had driven obedience. Respect and cooperation now inspired loyalty, courage, and creativity. And in the humans, she had found allies who were not merely soldiers, but thinkers, innovators, and partners. A sudden alert flashed on a nearby console. Vera's eyes scanned the holographic display. A small scouting fleet had detected remnants of the Vorax Dominion retreating toward a distant asteroid field. They were regrouping, likely planning another strike. Vera's mind sharpened. She had faced this before when she ruled with fear. She would have launched an all-out strike to crush any threat. But she had learned better now. She turned to the humans. "They are retreating. Alone, they are dangerous. Together, we can confront them not with mindless destruction, but with strategy and unity. Are you prepared to act once more?" The commander's eyes gleamed with determination. "Yes, Your Majesty. Together, we can end this threat without unnecessary loss of life. We can show them the strength of intelligence and cooperation, not just power." Vera's wings flexed instinctively. She felt the familiar thrill of battle, but it was tempered now with reason, planning, and trust. "Then we strike as one, not conquerors and victims, but allies united against a common threat." The plan was set. Vera's forces would flank the Vorax remnants, drawing them into carefully prepared positions, while the humans executed precise strikes to disable key ships and systems. For the first time, the Queen worked not to dominate, but to guide and coordinate. Her soldiers responded with focus and dedication, trusting her and the humans equally. As the fleets moved into position, Vera reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had started as a queen ready to yield, defeated by humans she had dismissed as weak. She had listened to voices that confused her, challenged her, and ultimately changed her perspective. And now, she was ready not just to survive, but to thrive with allies she had once considered enemies. The battle began with precision. The Vorax ships, confident from past victories, underestimated the coordination of humans and aliens working together. Energy blasts that had once decimated Vera's forces were now intercepted by agile human fighters, and reinforced shields commanded by her troops. Strategic traps funneled enemy ships into vulnerable zones. Explosions lit the void, but chaos was controlled by careful planning. Vera led a squad of her most skilled soldiers directly into the thick of the enemy. Her wings created protective gusts that deflected projectiles, her claws dismantled war machines, and her presence inspired confidence in both humans and aliens alike. For the first time, she felt a shared power, a synergy born not of fear, but of trust and cooperation. The human commander directed strikes from a nearby cruiser, calculating trajectories, coordinating timing, and adapting to unexpected moves by the Vorax forces. The officer moved through the battlefield, guiding reinforcements and helping injured soldiers. Their combined leadership created a force that the Vorax Dominion could not match hours past. Voron 5 shook with energy discharges, explosions, and the constant hum of engines. Yet slowly, the tide turned. The Vorax ships faltered, their numbers dwindled, and their retreat became disorganized. By the time the final ships fled into deep space, it was clear the alliance of humans and aliens had prevailed. Vera lowered her wings and exhaled. Feeling a strange calm settle over her, she surveyed her soldiers and the human allies. They were exhausted, but alive. They had fought bravely, not only with strength, but with intelligence and unity. And she had learned something invaluable. Victory gained through cooperation, respect, and courage was far more meaningful than conquest through fear. The human commander approached her again. "Your Majesty, the threat is ended. Your people have survived, and together, we have demonstrated something important, that even the strongest foes can be overcome. When intelligence and cooperation lead the way." Vera studied him. Her mind reflected on the battles, the dialogues, and the decisions that had defined this journey. She realized that she had grown not just as a leader, but as a being capable of understanding, trust, and respect. She nodded slowly. "You speak truthfully," she said. "My empire has survived defeat, yet it is stronger now not because of weapons or fear, but because we learned from those we once considered weak. You, humans, have shown courage beyond your size, wisdom beyond your experience, and integrity beyond expectation. You have changed my mind and my heart." The officer smiled warmly. "And you have changed ours, Your Majesty. We have learned that strength is not just in survival, but in leadership, unity, and the willingness to trust. Together, we are stronger than any enemy and wiser than any conqueror alone." Vera turned her gaze to the horizon. The battlefield, though still bearing scars, was now a place of rebuilding, learning, and growth. Her soldiers were no longer merely followers, they were partners in thought, planning, and courage. The humans were no longer strangers, they were allies who had proven themselves in battle and wisdom. For the first time in her long life, Queen Vera allowed herself to imagine a future that did not rely on domination. She saw possibilities, rebuilding cities, strengthening alliances, exploring new worlds together. She saw hope, a fragile but real hope, that her people and the humans could create something greater than what either could achieve alone. She addressed both humans and aliens. "Today, we have proven something extraordinary, not through fear, not through power, but through courage, intelligence, and unity. Let this victory remind us that even enemies can become allies, and even in defeat, new strength can be found." Her soldiers cheered, and the humans nodded, feeling the weight of her words. A new bond had formed, one that would not be broken by distance or adversity. Respect had been forged in the fires of battle, trust had been earned through action, and hope had been born from understanding. As night fell over Vorn 5, the twin moons reflected silver light across the battlefield. Vera stood tall, her wings stretched slightly, her mind alive with possibilities. She thought of the humans who had challenged her, guided her, and ultimately changed her mind. She realized that the universe was full of potential allies, full of intelligence, courage, and strength in unexpected forms. Perhaps, she whispered to herself, the greatest power is not domination, but understanding. Not fear, but respect. And not solitude, but partnership. And with that thought, Queen Vera looked to the humans and her own people with a mixture of pride, respect, and hope. Together, they had survived defeat, defeated a powerful enemy, and forged a new path forward. The future was uncertain, as all futures are, but it was bright, shaped by courage, wisdom, and the bond between species who had learned to listen, trust, and fight together. The story of that day, and the voice that had changed her mind, would be remembered for generations, a tale of defeat transformed into victory, of enemies turned allies, and of a human voice that had reminded even the fiercest queen that true power comes from respect, courage, and unity. Queen Vera lowered her gaze once more to the horizon, watching her soldiers and the human allies prepare for the days ahead. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges, mysteries, and possibilities. Yet she felt ready. Together, they could face anything. Together, they had proven that humanity's